All right, so we talk about Apple. Here is what's happening with Apple. Apple restored the episodes to their platform yesterday. In case you haven't heard, Apple totally deplatformed me yesterday at about noon. They removed every last episode from Apple Podcasts. It was removed with no explanation why for several hours. As soon as I heard the news, I posted a video to Twitter or X or whatever. I'm never going to get used to that. Is anybody really going to start calling it X? I don't think so.
They're really doing the Prince thing with it, where it's the artist formerly known as Prince. Every article is like X, the artist for the social media site formerly known as Twitter. It's like, oh, great. So you've taken a 6 or 7 letter, whatever, TTER, 7 letter word, whatever it is, and you've shortened it to one and then added 3 sentences on to explain what it means. Thanks a lot, Elon. Appreciate it.
Anyway, I got into X yesterday, and I asked you to join me in demanding answers from Apple. Well, thankfully, a lot of people came out in force.
Yeah.
We were trending on X all day with people on both the left and the right calling Apple out. I was so happy to see so many people on the left who would post, I totally disagree with him, but this is wrong. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. So thank you if you did any of it, because after 6 hours of you raising all kinds of ruckus online, Apple restored my show to their platform. Well, 1,915 episodes of 3,000 plus catalog. So they removed at least a decade worth of content yesterday without explanation. At least until we started making noise about it. Today, I read an article in Variety that said the podcast was removed because of a trademark dispute. And, quote, it has since been resolved. Really? Really? A trademark? Wow. Over 3,000 episodes, all over a trademark issue. That is weird. Not going to get into the weeds over this, but there was a trademark dispute on one episode. They let us know on, I think, on June 29th. It was resolved within hours. We're like, not really. Now, if that is the reason, that's one episode. We resolved it with them within hours. Why would you remove over 3,000 episodes for a dispute with one?
It's a great question. Unless you were the one filing the dispute saying, someone's using my name, there's no real reason to pull all the episodes down.
Don't pull those. Yeah, no, of course not. Doesn't explain why they would remove the entire catalog. At least to me, it doesn't. Apple still has not responded to that. Yesterday is a prime example where I learned firsthand why the Blaze is so important. I learned the power of these middlemen. If you're a conservative, the threat of deplatforming is always there, even in the background, like the sword of Damocles. Is that how you say his name? Damocles. You remember the guy who's holding the sword over the head? This is why we built the Blaze. I'm not going to have a sword over my head. Not going to do it. The show is always available on Blaze TV. I've told you in the past, we need a direct relationship with you. I ask you, please subscribe if you haven't already. We have built a pirate ship. Get on the ship. Ay, mi mateys. Companies like Apple and Google and Meta can shut down your speech, our speech, literally with a keystroke. The elites have always wanted to control what you see and what you hear. Now, big tech is giving them the means to do it. They have done this to several of us. Since the Republicans have had Congress, they've been a little more shy. But I will tell you, yesterday would have been a loss of about 3 million views. If you're not getting the podcast from Apple, if that's where you normally go, there's about 3 million people that do that every day. That's a problem. That's a real problem if we lose touch with 3 million people. Please join our ranks. We become stronger and we have more ability to resist big tech censorship and deliver the truth to the American people. We want to be everywhere anyone can possibly listen, because our target audience is everyone. But our subscribers allow us to be truly independent. So if you're already a Blaze TV subscriber, thank you. You are what, honestly, when that happened yesterday, there was no warning. There have been no strikes. There was nothing, just gone. And everybody started pouring into my office going, Glenn, you're off Apple. What happened? I'm like, I don't know what happened. What are you talking about off Apple? Completely deleted the entire library. Kind of your life flashes in front of your eyes. And you're like, holy cow. Are we going to be able to get messages to our audience? Thank God Elon is at Twitter or X.
I like what he's doing with the censorship stuff, just not as much the naming stuff.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, it is important. Like, this one is pseudo resolved. I mean, again, I put pseudo in there because only about half the episodes seem to be there. But okay, maybe who knows what that is. My point, though, is that there's going to be a time where these things come off and they don't come back.
They don't come back. And if we don't have contact with you, you won't know. You won't know. You won't know what happened to us if we don't have a direct line to you. So please, this is the biggest discount we've offered ever. It's will not be censored. It'll save you $30 off your 1-year subscription when you use it at checkout. We need you with us now more than ever. I will tell you that I think something is, there's just a lot of things in my life that's always a trend. When you're getting close to doing something really, really big, and I don't know what that is, but when you're getting close to doing something big, there's all kinds of problems that keep cropping up, and we're in that kind of a period right now. And I just said to a friend of mine who was coming in to work with me today, I said, I have a feeling we're on the verge of something. I don't know what it is, but my gosh, look at this string of coincidence. Now, yesterday, I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but yesterday's podcast was, who's the real crime family, Trump or Biden? We are over the target on this, and we're not going to let it go. So please join us. By the way, when they restore the show in its entirety, then you can let up on Apple on X. That's when you can go in and say, all right, Apple did the right thing. But so far, 1,915 podcasts have been restored, and we are over 3,000. It's about 33 and change. So what's happening? Now, this is something that I talked about in Dark Future. And I want to read what I wrote just recently because it applies directly to this. This is the example of what I was talking about in Dark Future, and it applies to you.
Important question coming in from our listeners, Glenn, here is, why is Glenn talking about his podcast in the voice of Count Chocula? And I thought that was an interesting question.
Why there will be no questions here. From Dark Future, Chapter 5. In the future, you will own nothing. This is from my new book, Chapter 5. To most, the idea of not knowing anything probably seems like a far-off concept, especially when you think about it through the lens of capitalistic, consumer-centric culture that we now live in. How could we possibly shift toward a society like the one that's described in the You'll Own Nothing article? The answer is gradually, then all at once. I say this with confidence because we already see this trend playing out in a number of industries. For example, one aspect of our economy where the idea of owning nothing has developed the fastest is in the entertainment industry. Technological innovation has dramatically altered the way we access movies, television, short films, podcasts, music, and other forms of entertainment. I then highlight the dangers in the book of not owning physical media by talking about the rise of popularity in streaming services like Netflix and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I write, the data printed onto a disc or recorded on a cassette are there permanently. If the physical media remains undamaged, I'll have access to that data forever. This is not the case when dealing with streaming services. The data for the movie as it exists on a streaming service servers, like those owned by Netflix, are fluid. At any time, Netflix could take down Top Gun. Its copyright owners could alter the movie, and then Netflix could upload it, re-upload it without any warning to the consumer at home. They can do this because you don't own the content. They do. You are just renting access to the film. Later in the same chapter, I wrote, the music and podcast streaming service Spotify also has moderated content due to the social pressure. Podcasting giant Joe Rogan had more than 100 episodes removed by Spotify because of an alleged instance of misinformation, which included dangerous things like interviewing Dr. Robert Malone, a scientist who helped develop the mRNA vaccines. Don't expect the censors to stop there. Later, I wrote in the book, the point of all of this is to say, when you don't own physical media, that media is susceptible to change. The corporations that do own the media can do whatever they want with it. If a show contains a joke that is considered too cruel or tasteless by current societal norms, delete it. If a movie's depiction of a person, gender, orientation, or race is no longer socially acceptable, change it. If you hold a movie, show, or even a piece of music near and dear to your heart, you might want to consider owning a physical copy, because nothing is stopping the corporation that owns it from altering or destroying it completely if the political winds blow hard enough. Now, you might be thinking, as the reader of this book, Glenn, why are you spending so much time talking about movies and streaming services? I picked up this book to read about the future and the World Economic Forum. What does this have to do with property rights and private ownership? Think about what control these corporations have over your media when you don't own it. Then imagine what they could do in a world where you don't own anything and the corporation and governments own everything. What happened yesterday with the Apple podcast on my program is exactly why ownership matters. It is exactly why elites in the Biden administration, Davos, Wall Street firms like BlackRock want to consolidate property. That's why. They need ownership. It's why the government is so eager to work hand in hand with giant corporations. If you don't own the platform, the media, the news, or opinion product, then you don't control it. It can be altered without any warning, like it was yesterday, deleted from history, thousands of episodes, over a decade of my work, for no real reason. They can cancel it. This is the future that is being imposed on the world. And if you don't understand it, the day will soon come when the only voices you hear are approved by the ruling class and corporate elites. Please join us at Blaze TV. Please join us. By the way, I just have to say thank you to a couple of people. It was really remarkable, all of the people that are that came out yesterday to help. Looks like I may have to go elsewhere to listen to podcast if Apple is going to remove Glenn Beck's program from the podcast. A whole lot of us are going to say we found issue with Apple from Mike Lee. He followed it up with Glenn Beck having such a large audience, you'd think Apple would be reluctant to take this step. Sometimes such behavior can be observed with companies that face so little competition in a particular field that they don't fear alienating millions of customers. J.D. Vance also said, need some answers from Apple ASAP. This looks like an awful lot like a major American corporation engaging in election interference. Donald Trump Jr. said big tech censorship is the biggest threat to free speech and free expression in America. Apple's now engaging in open election interference by censoring Glenn Beck for telling the truth about Joe Biden's corruption. Jeremy Boring from the Daily Wire wrote, this must be a mistake. Glenn is one of the best men in the business and perhaps the greatest living broadcaster. Well, he said living. So
yes, he said that. I was like, good God, insane. That's really sad.
Yeah.
I saw that comment. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Ed Krasenstein, who noted he disagrees with me much of the time, said conservative commentator Glenn Beck has reportedly been banned from Apple iTunes without any explanation. First, I must say, I completely disagree with so much of what Glenn Beck has to say, and I think a lot of his politics are absurd. With that said, if Beck actually has been banned merely for voicing his free speech, I think it's wrong of Apple to do. It'll be interesting to see what reason Apple gives for this banning or if it was done by mistake. I'm unaware of any recent major controversy or hateful over-the-top message that Beck has spread over the airwaves.
Yeah, we haven't had one of those in like 2 weeks.
I know. Mm-hmm. So, I mean...
So, what's the problem?
But thank you for that. We have to return to the country that my father always...
The Glenn Beck Program.
Always held up to me and said, you know, I so disagree with what you're saying, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it.